What's up, everybody? This is GI Railfan again, and today we have part 2 of my Hagenbeck-Wallace series. And today we're going to be focusing on a bunch of different topics. The things that we're going to be going over is the route. We're going to be talking about the city of Hammond and the city of Gary's role in the accident, and we're going to be discussing some of the people involved with the accident, and just using the map to explore different regions. Let me go ahead and close that out here. So what we're looking at right here is the Ivanhoe area. Actually, this is an updated map. With my last video, I used a map from 2017, but the good folks at Google have updated the map since my last video was posted in April. So this map is a current map from March of 2018, of March of this year. So it looks different. I'll show you guys here in the timeline view here. Go back to 2017. Okay, this is the map that I used in my last video. All right, this is the map that we're going to be using today. So what we're looking at here, we're looking at Ivanhoe. We're looking at the crossover, aerial view of the crossover where the train sat. And if you watched my last video, you know that the accident happened in between these two streets here, Hobart Street and Stevenson Street. If you all have not seen my last video, I suggest that you watch it. I talk about Oscar Tim and his role in the accident, and we discuss the areas where he might have been prior to the accident occurring. First, let's talk about what could have been. So let's just say that the accident did not occur on June 22nd, 1918. Probably wouldn't have taken that long to cool off the journal box. They were just going right into the next city, the circus train. Wouldn't have took them any time to, leave the Ivanhoe area to get to the circus grounds in Hammond. And I believe that the circus grounds at that time for Hammond was located on the grounds of the Hammond Distillery, which would have been located on Calumet Avenue and 150th Street in Hammond. I believe that the distillery was closed in that year because of Prohibition, but I'm not sure if the distillery was closed during the time of this accident or not. I'm really not sure at all. But it was 150th and Calumet. Well, I should say, that I don't know if they would have set up in that area or on the grounds of the distillery, but that's where the train was supposed to go. So let's just go over there. Okay, so here we are. This, my friends, is the old grounds of the Hammond Distillery. You can see here is an abandoned railroad right-of-way here. And this belonged to the Indiana Harbor Belt Railroad. All right. So this is the location where the circus train should have went to set up, and this is where the circus should have happened, and it should have been an uneventful day for the kids of Hammond, Indiana there. But this particular time didn't turn out to be so happy. All right. So this is the location, the old area of the Hammond Distillery. I'm not sure if the train would have parked here and the circus would have been held somewhere around here. But this is pretty much a general area where it's supposed to be. And I'm sure there are more experts on, the old Hammond Circus grounds that might correct me. And that's fine. I'm not afraid of being wrong. All right. I'm going to just go ahead and light up my Indiana Harbor Belt guide here. And you can see this line takes you all the way west, northwest. All right. So we're not going to go too far ahead of ourselves here. All right. But actually what I want to do is work our way back east, so you all can kind of get understanding of where the train would have went to when it left Ivanhoe. All right. Which would have been here. Okay. Now the orange is lit. Orange means Indiana Harbor Belt. Okay, so it could be possible. I'm saying possible because I do not have any, cartographic maps or topographic maps from 1918 that details where things were. But probably was not too much different from what we see today. Okay, so it would have traveled along the Gary and Western here. Now I want to clear this up too. Accident happened on the Michigan Central, which would be today the CSX Porter branch. All right. This orange line is Indiana Harbor Belt. This would have been called the G&W, or the Gary and Western Railroad. This is where the head of the engine was parked. All right. So this is the crossover track, which if you watch my last video, you know that this crossover track looks different from what it looked like in 1918. And this track down here below the crossover track, that is the Porter branch. Those are the tracks in which the accident happened. Not up here on the Gary and Western, but down here on the Porter branch. So the train would have crossed over, used the crossover track. Let's say they fixed the journal box, and then they continued on their way through the Gary and Western yard here, which have been located back here actually. Now this yard, believe this is not Gibson Yard. This is the main Gibson Yard back here this way. This is a smaller yard that was used for Gary and Western traffic through the city of Gary, Indiana, and other businesses and industries along the route for the Gary and Western. And I believe there's also a transfer yard in between Indiana Harbor Belt and New York Central Railroad and Milwaukee Road. Milwaukee Road actually had 50% ownership in Indiana Harbor Belt at the time, I believe. So, you know, in Milwaukee Road and New York Central Railroad put their heads together and put this yard together here. And of course, as you know, it connects with the larger main yard back here, which is Gibson Yard. As you can see, it's still in operation today. Now, this is not my line. This orange line is route that someone else mapped out. All right, but I just want to show you all, you know, possible route where the train would have went to be able to get to the distillery here. All right. So my guess is that upon leaving the Gary and Western yard here, it would have taken this turnoff here. Now I'm not sure if this belongs to Indiana Harbor Belt or not. You see, it's not lit up in orange. But this would have been this is the Kankakee branch. All right. So it would have taken this route here, got off of the Kankakee branch and onto this spur. Now this is a industrial spur. I'm not really sure if you would want to call this a team track or not, but this spur served a lot of businesses in East Chicago and Hammond here. You see me coming through the Calumet neighborhood. As you all know, these projects are in the process of being demolished because of the lead smelting, the lead disaster that was going on in East Chicago. But this spur goes almost due west through the city of East Chicago and into Hammond city limits. You see this spur continues on west across Columbia Avenue, where we get to 150th and Calumet, which is right here. All right, so now we're back at Ivanhoe, as you can see. I just want to go over a little bit more detail about the area and where trains were on the night of the accident. There was a train on the EJ&E Eastern Subdivision that was stopped. It was stopped somewhere back here across Fifth Avenue, I believe. And the reason why it was stopped because it was going to allow both the second part of the circus train and Alonzo Sargent's troop train to clear the interlocking before proceeding south down the Eastern Subdivision here. So at the time of the accident, there was another train that was parked, like I said, up here across Fifth Avenue. And after the accident occurred, there was another train coming up one of the tracks of the Michigan Central line here. And they also had to stop because of the accident. Of course, the wreckage and all of the carnage and debris was fouling the main line here in this area down here. All right, so there were at least 2 trains that night that were stopped. And then you had the circus train and then the troop train, which was a total of 4 trains in the area. And a fifth train also arrived, which was the second part of the troop train. There were two troop trains. The first troop train was Alonzo Sargent's train. That's the train that hit the circus train. But there was a second troop train that was connected to the first. And that train was a couple of minutes behind Alonzo Sargent's train. And that train was stopped by the crew of the first troop train, of course, to prevent another accident. So that train was parked somewhere back here across Colfax Street here. And actually, the crew from the second train actually got out to help the crew of the first train. And all the crews from the troop trains helped, or tried to help, the injured and afflicted, everybody that was affected during the accident. Another thing that I want to cover, this accident is called the Hammond Circus train accident, but really it happened in the city of Gary. It's on the outskirts of Gary, of course. It's not, within the main city. It's not downtown or anything of that nature, but this did happen in Gary. It did not happen in Hammond. So the title, the Hammond Circus train accident of 1918, or however it's called, is misleading. Also, Ivanhoe, Indiana is not its own city. It never was its own city. Ivanhoe always was a neighborhood of Gary, Indiana. Well, I take that back. It probably used to be its own little village, maybe. I do believe that there was a station here somewhere. All right, but I don't really have any information about the Ivanhoe area from way back then before, a certain period in time. So, but Ivanhoe, Indiana during the time of the accident was a part of Gary, Indiana, and it was within Gary city limits. The accident did not happen in Hammond. It happened in Gary. All right. Not that I'm trying to, take the steam away from Hammond. Just want to clear that up. This accident did not occur in Hammond. In GI, baby. Also, the first fireman to arrive at the scene of the accident was also from the Gary Fire Department. The area that the accident occurred at the time, was a dry field, and there was no way to get to water. You can see that there is water here, but then I don't believe they would have had a way to get any water from here onto the fire. And of course, the circus people had no idea that there was any type of water back here. And even back then, it might not have even been immediately visible that there was water back here. So you can't really, blame them for how would they have gotten the water on the fire. It was described to be in the middle of a dry field. No water was available. Gary Fire Department tried to break through the debris, the twisted and shattered remains of train parts with axes to save anybody that they could find. But the fire was so hot and so tremendous, that they weren't able to save that many people from the debris. As soon as they saved one person, the fire would come and grow in intensity, and they had to retreat. But I would say that, about 10 or 15 minutes after the accident happened, even before the Gary Fire Department arrived, most of the people who were going to die, they died before any fire department or any emergency services got there. And we're talking about 1918 here. You know what I'm saying? Emergency services did not come as fast to these rural areas, like they would now. We have clearly defined streets now. Fire trucks can pretty much get anywhere back here now. But back in that day, it was not so simple. And in fact, the sun was way up before the first train with water arrived to the accident. It was a water train that was dispatched by Indiana Harbor Belt Railroad. Also had, brought extra crews on empty cars to be able to transport the injured wherever they needed to go. But the water came way too late. Water didn't come until 2 hours after the fire had started, and by then the fire was pretty much burnt out. you know, still hot spots or whatever, but it was it's just a terrible thing to think about. All the charred bodies and all of that, you know, like all of that was done. Everybody was dead or charred or whatever was going to happen to them. All of that happened way before that water train arrived. I want to show you guys a few pictures here. None of these pictures were taken by me or even belong to me. So if anybody wants to, you know, claim these photos, you know what I'm saying, you're more than happy, more than welcome to, you know, ask me to, you know, get rid of the video or whatever. But I doubt that we'll have any problems dealing with that. I just wanted to show everybody some photographs. All right, so these are photographs that I found from various places along the internet. Okay, so the first one that I want to show you guys is a photograph of Ivanhoe Tower. You see the photograph credit down there, Charlie Whip. All right, so this tower here, from this view, we will be looking east down to Michigan Central. All right, and you can see that by the time that this photograph was taken, that the area was single track. You see the double track does not exist anymore. All right, you see the tower, you know, sitting right here. You see the order poles. I forget what they call these little poles here, where the engines will roll by really slowly, and somebody, maybe the conductor, somebody in the caboose, or the engineer would just reach out and grab the orders off of the pole here and keep on rolling. All right, but you can see here we're facing east, and quite sure the tower did not look like this back in 1918. This tower more than likely was rebuilt in between 1918 and the time this photograph was taken. I think by 1995 this tower was gone. All right, so like I said, this is the Michigan Central right here, and these tracks here that are going across horizontally, that would have been the EJ&E. Okay, and the Gary and Western is right back here. You can barely see it. This one says June 1992. So we're going to be looking west down to Michigan Central here. Once again, we have the EJ&E here. You see we have a train on the Gary and Western heading towards the Gary and Western yard back there probably. This old iron smelter here isn't there anymore, but it still is a business back there. But these smokestacks, they're gone. You see, you have another view of the tower back here. All right, just to give you all a certain perspective of what the Ivanhoe area looked like, you know, during the time of the accident. Of course, it didn't look exactly like this, but it's not far off the mark. I kind of superimposed this map, this particular map, onto a Google Earth image. So both trains passed Tolleson Junction here first, going west, which would be back this way. All right, you see this would have been a location of Tolleson Tower, which they passed, and actually during the accident, the operator of Ivanhoe Tower called Tolleson Tower. They had a conversation. I forget what was discussed, but there was communication between both towers of Ivanhoe and Tolleson during the time of the accident. I got a picture of Tolleson Tower somewhere. Okay, this is the photograph of Tolleson Tower here. I wanted to show you guys. Now back here is the Gary and Western Bridge. All right, and this is the Pennsylvania Railroad on the Fort Wayne branch. Okay, so the interlocking would have been back here. All right, but this is like one of the few photographs that I've seen of Tolleson Tower, and this is from the 60s. You see David Ingalls, 1962. So this photograph is from the 60s. I'm pretty sure that tower looked different as well in 1918. So this is a screenshot from a book here. This engine that you see is the troop train engine. You see how destroyed it is. You see all the chaos and carnage, the debris. Look at all of that. It's total, utter destruction. Pretty old photograph. It's really hard to make. make things out. But this is a wrecking crane that's here. I know the wrecking cranes arrived, fairly early on in the morning. This photograph was probably taken just a few hours after, the accident. What else we got? Yeah, this is from Hagenbeck-Wallace. It's another view of the engine from the other side. You see all that debris down there? Like, it's a really small photo. Oops. Really small photograph. Like these photographs, I know fail in comparison to actually witnessing this scene in person. You can see rescue crews probably digging through the debris and probably looking for humans in the smoldering debris there. This is a signal that Alonzo Sargent passed. Alright, it is along the curve and is headed towards Ivanhoe, I believe. So this would be on the Michigan Central. You see his automatic signal 2581. And this signal was also mentioned in the accident report. And the signal was working properly. It displayed a red aspect when it should have. Alonzo Sargent just simply didn't see it. You can also see a train down there on the track, but I'm not sure if that's, a troop train or what. Really not sure. Here comes the South Shore. I'm going to be interrupting my recording in a few seconds. Maybe I should close my door. Train is gone now, so we're going to go ahead and move on to another photograph here. Look at how small those pieces of wood are. Just look at that. That is unmanageable. Look at the crowd. Like, this was a spectacle for them. Nothing like this had ever happened before in the area, so I'm pretty sure there was a lot of rubberneckers and oglers and people just curious to find out what's going on. You see children standing there right next to the bodies being taken out of debris. Boy, how times have changed. It would be unconscionable to bring children to an accident scene of this nature these days. Their crowd is full of kids. You see workers hauling the bodies around, probably some of the surviving roustabouts here and here. They look like they're African American here, but it's hard to tell because of the, shadowing. Here we have another photograph, which was described to be a lady by the name of Jenny Ward Todd. I think she was a performer for the circus. I'm not a circus expert. I'm not going to be, talking about, personnel from the circus, unless, we're talking about Joe Coyle or something like that. I'm not an expert on Hagenbeck-Wallace Circus by any stretch of the imagination, so I'm not even going to be speculating about what her role was or what happened to her. But obviously, if this is her, she is dead. All right. And the morbid looks on those firemen's faces, just look at them. They don't look like they're happy to be there at all. This is the track diagram. I showed this earlier in my other video, but I didn't blow it up. But you can see, you all have the measurements from the accident report here. So you can see the crossover track looks different from the crossover that's there now. Here we have another close-up shot of the engine, extra, what was the name of that engine? Extra 8485. The number is kind of obscure here, but you can see that engine, and I believe this is wreckage from the caboose, but I'm not really sure. You see it says 20 bodies were taken from under this engine. Those poor people, man. Didn't even know what hit them. Let's take a look at that photo. 20 people were found under this locomotive. Most of them were probably charred and dismembered. It's a wider shot of the crowd. They're attempting to get shots of the wreckage, but there's people in the way. And I like that they take photographs of the people. You know, this is a human tragedy. This is a story about humans. It's not about the trains themselves. People die here. And everybody just looks shocked and morbid. And pretty sure there's some type of a grim, curiosity. And I believe it would have been like this even if this was a regular passenger train and it wasn't a circus train, even though I have no doubt, because it was a circus train involved, it probably attracted way more people. Look at that. In this photograph, the fires are still burning. Look at that. Fires are still burning in this photo. Terrible. Absolutely devastating destruction here. Look at the look on this guy's face. There's a bigger photograph of this guy in the crowd. It's a wider shot. That is the tender from a extra 8485. I believe extra 8485, the actual locomotive, actually fouled the crossover track and both of the main line tracks on the Michigan Central. And the tender was just, derailed. You can actually see like the path of destruction. You see all this wood here on the side. You can actually tell like the train plowed through here and left a trail of debris. You see a spring here. This is terrible stuff. Burnt wood already there. Look at that. Just horrible. There's debris on the other side of the track as well. Here we have another view of the tender. Fire still smoldering. It just amazed me how people bring their children. Look at this little girl. She could be no older than 3, huh? Her mother and father brought her down there. This would be an unthinkable thing to do these days. Look at this, you got axles just on the side of the tracks. This is a wrecking crane here. Excuse me, so it's possible the wrecking crane might have moved those axles there. Look at that. Just fire spread all up the track. Terrible. As you can see, you see people wearing long sleeves, and this was something else that I wanted to discuss, because Alonzo Sargent said that a cool breeze hit, while they were, traveling on the train that night. It was the heat of the locomotive that helped him fall asleep when he shouldn't have. So I believe during the morning, when the sun come up, it was still cold. And this is probably the reason why people are wearing long sleeves, even though it's June. That happens sometimes here in Northwest Indiana. June can be a very warm month, but it also could be a very cool month. I think one year it actually snowed in June, and then the next week it was 90 degrees. That's just how it is up here. So it's not a very good shot here, but you see the smoke. Now they said this was Ivanhoe Tower back here. Well, I'm not too sure about that. This might not be a photograph of the Hagenbeck-Wallace accident at all. And like I said, some of these photographs were labeled as being a part of the Hagenbeck-Wallace Circus accident. And, you know, it had nothing to do with the circus accident, so I'm not really too certain this is a Hagenbeck-Wallace Circus train, you know, accident here. This is a Hagenbeck-Wallace photograph here, but you can't make anything out too much. Here's another view of the skeleton, which I believe to be the caboose. The caboose was made out of steel. You see all the people just standing on the side. You got people up on the telegraph poles. Like, this was quite the event back then. And you see why, you know, this event is still remembered. People who were there probably passed that story down to their kids, and also spread all kinds of rumors about the animals being released. But you can see here, there's no worries about lions and tigers being loose. They're all standing there with their kids. There's a better shot of the wrecking crane. You see the trucks and the axles, wheel axles there. Not really too much to make out in this one, but you can see extra 8485 here. Okay, now this is extra 8485. You see the wrecking cranes are, elevating it. Really hard to make out anything with this smoke. But yeah, you know, I could pick out the Hagenbeck-Wallace accident pictures pretty well. Look at that debris there. Now I know extra 8485 when I see it, and I just want to point this out to you because it was bent like a little Vienna sausage. It was bent at the front.